England Take. I'm your host, AJ Kirsten. NewEnglandTake.com to get more from the show. Substack, you can get every episode in your inbox, as well as if you want to throw a couple bucks my way to support the program, that's a great way to do it. Big thank you to WKXL for picking up the program every Saturday at 8:30 a.m. NHTalkRadio.com for more about what they've got going on. Great station. They're actually picking up the Fisher Cats, which is super interesting. Also, thank you to thegranitegrok.com as well as Concord TV for picking up the program. AJ at NewEnglandTake.com if you have any opinions on what I'm doing over here, any thoughts, guest ideas, anything of that nature. It's been interesting seeing the people that are checking out the program via email. All right, excited this week to be joined by Meg Hagaman. She is running for county attorney for Merrimack County, and we're just going to dive into it because, for starters, most people don't know what a county attorney does. I have a kind of an idea, but not really, so it'd be interesting to dive into that. But she's formerly with the Department of Justice, and she's had an interesting career thus far. Meg, welcome to the show.
Thank you, AJ. It's great to be here.
Full disclosure, I did work at the law school when you were a law student at UNH Franklin Pierce. I did also film your and do some photography for your campaign, but this is strictly a conversation as to what it's like being in this role and why you're running. But let's just start off with a baseline. So do a civics lesson. Let's call it that. What would a Merrimack County attorney do?
Sure, it's a great question, AJ, and you're right. So in talking with voters out on the campaign trail already, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Most people don't know what a county attorney is. And in New Hampshire, a county attorney is really the chief law enforcement officer for the county. And they're responsible to make sure that the laws that our legislature and our governor have passed and have found appropriate to pass based off of what the community wants, that those laws are enforced fairly and justly across the county. And so as county attorney, the job really is to make sure that we are fairly and responsibly enforcing the law across the county. Now, for me, as the next county attorney, a lot of my job is going to be focused on standing with victims, supporting law enforcement, and making sure that we're advocating for justice in every case, because a prosecutor's highest responsibility really is to do justice. Yes, certainly people can measure success off of convictions, but that is not the only way, nor should it be the only way that a prosecutor determines whether they think that they've been successful. Also building relationships with the community, making sure that the community supports and trusts the people in those positions, making sure that victims have felt supported and heard along the way, building relationships with our law enforcement community and making sure that we're actually having partnerships with them. Those are just some of the things that a county attorney is responsible for. But, in other jurisdictions, a lot of times it's referred to as a district attorney. And sometimes that's helpful for people to know, is that a county attorney is kind of like a district attorney in other states.
Yeah, district attorney basically is probably the light bulb that goes on a lot of people's heads from Law and Order and stuff. Like, it's New Hampshire. We don't have quite as many people as Manhattan.
Exactly, right. But nonetheless, you're right. It is very similar in that role, and a county attorney has immense responsibility to the public. And someone in that role needs to make sure that they really are a principled leader and someone that the public can trust.
Yeah, I would imagine running as the cutthroat. I've taken down this many criminals. When you live in this community, that's kind of the nature of being a county attorney. Is you're supposed to live with it. You have to live within the jurisdiction of the county, where you do. You don't want to. You don't want to be coming across as some cutthroat prosecutor that's just going to nail everyone for little things. You got to come across as someone that's actually lives here and cares.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right, AJ. There are certainly times when that's appropriate. The serious offenders that are committing the most serious crimes should have the most serious punishment. But there are certainly other circumstances where that approach is not appropriate, where we know in our community that families are being torn apart by addiction, mental health. Those circumstances may warrant punishment, but they may also warrant some other type of alternative sentence. And the county attorney really needs to be able to say to the community, look, I'm someone who's going to look at every single case based off of the facts and the law in front of me and make the best decision I can make for our community. Because to your point, you can't just say everybody is going to prison And the alternative is true too. You can't say nobody is going to
Yeah.
prison. And any prosecutor who's running for this office who says otherwise, I would question and would want our public to really question those people, because at the end of the day, the county attorney is really someone who the public needs to trust.
So this is unique when it comes to a jurisdiction perspective, where as the county attorney, there's just the sheriff's office, which is not like the formal police that you think about in New Hampshire with how we have sheriff's offices in our state. You have to collaborate with local law enforcement because every town, especially Merrimack County, probably has their own police department. What does that relationship look like, and what is your aim if you were to get this position? How would you foster that relationship? How do you foresee that being?
Yeah, it's a great question, and you're right. Across Merrimack County, most of the towns have their own police agency, their local law enforcement agency, and they have their own police chiefs. We do have a Merrimack County Sheriff's Department that is responsible for covering the entire county as needed. They have some MOUs with some of the local law enforcement agencies, and they work collaboratively together. And you're right. In conjunction with the county attorney, it's vital that the next county attorney is someone who can work with law enforcement, who can gain their trust and support as well. I can tell you, after being a prosecutor for over 12 years, I can't do my job without police buy-in, without a police officer or officers who are invested and care about the mission. And so a great prosecution requires both a prosecutor in the courtroom, but also an investigator who has been boots on the ground, really working hard to investigate the case. And I would say for the next county attorney, and if I am so fortunate to be that person, I would work with every one of the police chiefs, regardless of what their relationship has been with the county attorney's office in the past. My goal would be that it would be an open door policy where we would work through issues, we would collaborate. I would be someone that they could pick up the phone and call and talk through issues, and to prepare the county, because quite frankly, I think this next county attorney is going to face a lot of challenges. Everything from what the role of AI looks like to public trust and confidence in the criminal justice system, to workforce needs. All of those are things that both the next county attorney and our local law enforcement agencies are going to really have to struggle with and learn how to balance and deal with those issues as they move forward in the next few years. And so I think one thing that the next county attorney really needs to be mindful of is, are they someone who can partner with law enforcement? And I certainly have already spent the last 12 plus years doing that in every single case, working with law enforcement. And I'm hopeful that that experience demonstrates my willingness to do it. And not just from I'm running for office, and so this is what I'm saying on the campaign trail, but actually, well over a decade of me saying, this is what I've already been doing. And hopefully that's what the public wants to see. They want to see someone who's saying, okay, it's really not about politics. It's really not about rhetoric. It's not what I'm going to say on the campaign trail. But what have I actually done over the last 10 plus years to demonstrate to this community that I really am the prosecutor who wants to do this job and is the most prepared to do it?
Let's work backwards. So currently, you are, as of a few weeks ago, are actually work at the county attorney's office. So what is your role there? And talk a little bit about what you do now.
Sure. So you're right. So I'm back at Merrimack County now. I'm working as their attorney solicitor. That role is kind of multifaceted. It can look like an everyday prosecutor some days, and a lot of it is also behind the scenes, things that are very important to the county, things that not everyone always sees, like when the public makes a right to know request. Or say there's a subpoena for records. Those are all really important tasks that the county has to respond to and make sure that they're being transparent about what they're doing. And that's some of the tasks that I've been asked to manage and to handle. And given my experience, I'm also someone in the office that people can go to as a resource to help talk about issues, things coming up in cases, and to basically step in as a mentor to the people in the office. And my goal as county attorney is to do something very similar. I would like to see myself in a role where I can mentor the next generation of prosecutors. The county attorney's office has great people already working in there, and there's a team that I look forward to leading, and also new people that we would love to recruit and bring in for the next generation. So yeah, that's my current role. Most recently, before that, as you mentioned, I was at the Department of Justice. I started at DOJ back in 2019. I started in the drug and homicide prosecution units where I handled drug trafficking cases, homicide cases,
Oh,
and
happy
everything.
stories,
Happy,
24/7,
happy
wall to
topics.
wall.
Yes, all lots of very challenging, tough cases. But I will tell you, it's that important work that really makes me enjoy being a prosecutor. It's the people that you meet in those cases, the victims that are their resilience is unmatched. And it's those people that make you want to do this job. And so I started in those units. I had the privilege to be asked to head up our YDC task force, which has been one of our largest criminal investigations statewide. So I did that for a couple years. And then the Attorney General entrusted me to head up actually the Criminal Justice Bureau, where I was responsible for the entire statewide prosecution, which involved managing a team of over 60 people. And so that took on many different roles, and I would say is one of the things that has made me most prepared for this job. I've already been managing large teams. I've already been handling cases at the highest level prosecution. And for me, I feel like this is a great next step for me to be able to mentor and to go back to the local level and really be someone who future generations can learn from, and I can learn from as well.
So you talked a little bit about AI and things of that nature at the beginning, which great for SEO, definitely. Say AI every 2 seconds. For some reason, these damn social media networks
Right?
can't let us forget about it for 5 seconds. But it's important when you consider.
It's coming whether we like it
Yeah,
or not.
exactly. I mean, it's been one of those interesting things. Like I've had multiple conversations in the past with police commissioner and state representative Buzz Scher in the past around the impact of AI and all these different technologies. New Hampshire, ooh, we love flying around that Gadsden flag saying, no, 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 not here, buddy. But it's a matter of these technologies are legitimately how everyone uses their systems. All this data has to go somewhere. It's this confusing balance of New Hampshire is really good about trying to collect data when possible in ways that are so we have productive transparency and knowing what direction we should be taking things. But on the other side, we also want to make sure that individuals are not overly exposed to things where their information is harvested by some multinational corporation or being profiled in some way that's inappropriate. It's both sides of the aisle when it comes to that, especially with your background in that bureau at the Department of Justice and now also at the county level. I mean, any insight into what direction that sort of stuff is going in New Hampshire, and maybe if you have any vision as to where, as a county prosecutor, what that would look like? You'd hope to have tools in your toolbox.
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I think AI is here whether we like it or not. I think from a law enforcement perspective, I think it's something that can be a very valuable tool, but it's something that we need to know how to use that tool and how are we being transparent about how we're using that tool. And I think that's something that future police chiefs, current police chiefs are all going to need to be mindful of. What are their agencies doing and how are they using it? It's one thing to be using it as a research tool, as something that's helping them to look into issues, but there's definitely cautions. As as a prosecutor, I would certainly say that there are things that they need to be cautious about, because it's really important that witnesses are testifying based off of their own memory, based off of their own experiences, and those are things that our prosecutors are going to have to really be mindful of as we're going into this next generation of what evidence may look like and what it could entail. Now, in terms of tools for prosecutors, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for AI. AI can help people do research and help look into things that we never had access to the information in such a quick and ready fashion. But again, it comes back to you need to trust but verify. And I think in a lot of ways, as long as we're making sure that we're using these tools appropriately and we're being straightforward about how we're using them, I think they can be great for the community. But like I said, there's some caution, because I think a lot of times we jump into things before we really know what it's going to look like. And I think with AI, I think there's a lot of excitement about it, but very little, known about the long-term ramifications or what the regulations may look like. And so I think, as a prosecutor, I say, it's something that we should use, but with caution and, trust but verify.
Drugs and addiction are obviously a huge nationwide issue. The opioid crisis, the fallout of fentanyl coming across our borders more and more. What does that look like at the county level? Especially, you don't have Manchester in Merrimack,
sure,
which is probably fortunate for looking at the workload when it comes to dealing with those sorts of issues. But what does
sure.
that look like at the Merrimack County level, and what sort of leadership are you able to take in this sort of role with regards to dealing with this situation? We've talked about drug courts. I don't know if Merrimack County has a drug court per se, but those are something that have been very popular.
Yes. So to answer that question first, yes, Merrimack County does have an adult recovery court, and they have for a number of years. And there have been some recent studies. I think it was in the most recent New Hampshire Bar News, where they had done a study on drug courts, and the success rates have been very good, meaning that it has actually reduced crime in the sense that people that actually are participating in the program and are successful in that have a less likelihood of reoffending. And so I think those programs are really important in our community. I think they are, a sensible way to try to address the things that drive crime. Because to your point, addiction is something that our community is facing. It has been for a number of years. I don't think in the this next cycle election cycle that's going to change. I think, the next county attorney, whoever it is, hopefully it's me, but whoever it is going to have to deal with that as a reality. And that those are cases that are coming into the county attorney's office. Maybe not at the same rate as our counterparts in Hillsborough County, but certainly there's a significant number of our cases each month that are presented to our grand juries that are drug offenses. And those cases need to be viewed in the proper light, whatever that may be. Now, there could be cases where there are significant drug dealers and they have significant quantities, and those drug dealers need to be held accountable, because people need to know that if they are dealing drugs in Merrimack County, there'll be a serious punishment for that so as to deter it. The flip side is that there could be someone who had a really horrible injury or a really horrible circumstance, and they got hooked on pain medication, and it led them into a spiral. And maybe they're ready to say, yes, I need treatment and I want treatment, and we need to address those cases in that way. So I think that there's a way to make sure that the county is appropriately and respectfully handling those issues. Because on one hand, it may require a very significant punishment, but it may also require us to be mindful that something like adult recovery court might be appropriate.
So this show, we talk about politics a lot, so I want to talk into the nature of the campaign side of it a little bit, but is there anything else when it comes to the issues that are kind of hot button issues in the news and stuff when it comes to criminal justice that you want to touch on before we transition to that?
No, that's okay. I mean, I think a lot of the issues for the criminal justice system are really, they go across the state. They're not necessarily unique to Merrimack County. These issues that we've even been talking about already, they're something that every county attorney across our state is going to be confronted with. So I don't think there's anything specific to Merrimack County.
So what's interesting to me about this position is it is a partisan. You got to go through the primary system in order to make it through to this position, which is interesting because I literally had to ask you. I'm involved with politics a lot, and I'm like, wait a second, is this a partisan thing? And fortunately, you're running on the Republican ticket, which works good for me personally. But but I was like, wait a second. So I mean, at this most basic level, like, how partisan is the county attorney? And I'm assuming statewide it's probably fairly similar, but I mean, especially in Merrimack.
Sure, it's a great point, and I will tell you, many people that I've spoken to out on the campaign trail have said they're very surprised it's a partisan race, and they actually, much like how I feel about it, is that it really shouldn't be about politics. It really should be who is going to be the best county attorney and who has basically the experience and the dedication and the commitment to do the job. And it really shouldn't be about whether they're a Republican or a Democrat. And I would say, in this particular race in Merrimack County, we'll have to wait until the filing deadline in June to see, who's really going to be a candidate. I'm most certainly filing in June. I've already announced my candidacy, but we'll have to wait and see what those other candidates look like. But you're right to say in this election, there is going to likely be a primary. So I will have to make it out in September and then again in the general election. But I'm excited. I think, in some ways, interest in the county attorney's office is a good thing. I think it helps our community. It helps educate voters on how important this role really is and how important it is for them to get out and vote and make sure that they do their homework on the candidates and make sure, myself included, I've been telling people, if they ask me about my opponents and what that field looks like, I've encouraged them to say, hey, I think that I am the very best candidate for this job. And I think I have not only the dedication, but the experience, the poise, the ability to build relationships. And I've been a prosecutor my entire career, and I have prosecuted at the highest level in our state and been entrusted by the Attorney General to manage our statewide prosecutions. But I tell them and I encourage them and I say, look, you want the very best Merrimack County attorney. So you should do your homework and you should look into these people and find out why they're running and what it is that they think they bring to the table. Because I do think it will be an interesting race, AJ, for sure. And I think, it's going to be a hard-fought campaign, and we're looking forward to it. We've already been out meeting voters. We recently were at the Franklin Community Days just the other, about 2 weeks ago, out, walking in the parade with a couple of the former mayors and meeting voters. And, I can tell you the community is engaged and they're excited to see what this is going to look like in September.
Yeah, it's people from both sides of the aisle are at your things, which is fascinating to see. I've lived in Concord since 2010,
Sure.
So seeing some of the names, like, oh, wait a second, they're there, which is
Sure.
which is super neat to be able to see.
Yep.
How long? I'm spacing the name of the current county attorney. How long has he been in the role?
Yeah, so County Attorney Halverson has been in the role, I think it's 3 terms. He ran back in, I want to say it was 2018 and lost, and then ran again in 2020 and won, and then has been the county attorney since.
So you got to do this nonsense every 2 years. That's got to be...
Yes. So I will say, and that is an interesting part about this role is that it is a 2-year term. And in some ways, I do think that discourages people from running because it is a lot to expect of people to go through this every 2 years. But the flip side is that it ensures that it's who the community wants. The community gets a voice and they get the opportunity to decide who they think is the best person for the job, and they get to do it every 2 years. So yes, there's some pros and cons, but I think at the end of the day, it allows the public to be able to be the ones that make the ultimate decision. It's not someone who's just in the job and gets to basically be on autopilot for however many years. It really truly ensures that the person in that job is accountable to the public, which is a great thing.
So you're a younger person. Let's
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yes, that's how I refer to people's age on the show. You're a younger person. What if people? So, especially with our current political and economic climate, my prediction is over the next few years, we're probably going to see a few more people enrolling in law school than maybe wouldn't have considered it 4 years ago when the economy was doing better. Let's just phrase it that way. This is how for anyone. I worked in higher ed for 12 years, so I'm familiar with the trends. But so how it works for the uninitiated when it comes to it, when the economy takes a downturn, everyone goes to higher education, post-secondary education, because your job prospects aren't great, so you're probably going to go get some education so that when things do improve,
you're right. That's how the trend usually goes.
Yes, exactly. So if people are considering law school, why should they consider a criminal justice side of it? And why is it important that younger people especially consider that, regardless of their political leanings?
Sure. I would say that I would highly encourage people that are interested in becoming an attorney to consider criminal justice. It has been one of the most rewarding things that I have done in my entire life. I would say every day is different. Every day is exciting because you are out there arguing and advocating for justice. I mean, if you're a prosecutor, that's your role. If you're a defense attorney, your job is to make sure that your clients' rights are protected and that you're zealously advocating for them in a courtroom. And for me, criminal justice has been an incredible career opportunity. I have had mentors over my career, people that I met in Merrimack County when I was a brand new intern, who are still in the office today, some of whom are, my colleagues again, which is amazing. And then, some that are supporting me on this campaign trail, which is great. But I will tell you, it's really the collegial bond that you will forge with people. When you do multi-day jury trials with someone, you really learn a lot about them. You get front row experience into what some of these challenges are in a courtroom and the like. And I would say there's really nothing else in the law that I think has this level of mission. And for me, I think that's why I do it, is that it's really about the mission. It's something that's bigger than yourself. It's something that's so important to the community and so important to the people around you. I mean, I've seen the criminal justice system at its best. I've seen it at its worst. I have seen victims whose stories you can't even believe, because their strength, their resilience is something that you can't forget. And those moments are the moments when you say, wow, I'm really glad that I'm part of the criminal justice system. And I would say anyone who's considering going to law school, they should definitely consider going into criminal justice. There's no other place that you're going to get this front row to, people's lives, to the law, to that interplay between facts and law. I mean, there's just nothing better.
Awesome. All right, Meg, if people want to learn more about your campaign, what should they do?
They should go check me out on my website, megformerrimack.com. They can also find me on social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. And I hope that they go vote in September and that they do their homework.
Awesome. Meg Hagaman, appreciate you taking the time, running for Merrimack County Attorney. Best of luck.
Thank you so much. I look forward to sharing the good news in September.
Awesome. All right. NewEnglandTake.com to get more from the show. I've been AJ Kierstead. Be sure to check out that Substack, NewEnglandTake.com. We pumping stuff out every week over there for the show. WKXL, thank you to them. 8:30 a.m. every Saturday picks up the program. Next up over there is Facing the Future, brought to you by the Concord Coalition. Thank you to Concord TV, my local community TV station, for picking up the show every week. And the GraniteGrock.com every Saturday shares out the program. AJ at NewEnglandTake.com if you want to shoot me an email, opinions, guest ideas. What did I get wrong? What did I get right? I like seeing all of it. We'll talk to you soon.